Good morning, everyone. It's Dave with Alaskan Homesteading again. Today I have another auto repair video for you. Once you have a fleet of any size, you start to realize that there's always some vehicle that needs something done to it. I've been working on the tractor, working on the ATV, working on my pickup, and now today I've got to work on our 2009 Chevy Tahoe. We found that the coolant reservoir tank here has a little bit of a leak. When I topped it up yesterday, it leaked out onto the floor. And at some point during driving yesterday, we believe that it leaked and sprayed some water around the engine, well, coolant around the engine compartment, causing some steam. Didn't have any overheating or anything, but these coolant tanks are known to fail. Typically, they'll get cracks in the lower portion down in the white or clear part, and then you'll lose some coolant. So we went off and found a replacement part, and we're going to go ahead and install that. Let's get started. The first thing that you have to do to access the bolts that hold the coolant tank in is to remove the air filter box. So you start by removing this connector for the mass airflow sensor. Quite simple. That just pops out. Set that off to the side. And then we'll loosen this screw down here and pull the hose. And I've never done this before, but I did watch a YouTube video last night, and it looked super simple because it's just not that complicated. All right, that guy out of the way. Comes out very easily. All right, now there's one bolt here and another one underneath in the back. Yeah, I'll have to reach that one from down here through the battery well. Let's get some light in here. There we go, that's better. So you can see some evidence of the leaking. There's fresh coolant stain on the inside of the fender well liner, and I'm not sure where the crack is. It might be a very small one. I'm thinking that it's something that opens up when the reservoir gets warm and then closes back up when it's cool. But you can see on my gloves here, there's the bottom of this reservoir is wet, so there's definitely a leak. I'm definitely replacing it. We have the part. So the next step is going to be to take this upper hose off. We're going to slide both of the upper and lower hose clamps off out of the way, but we're going to wait until we get this tank drained before we take off that lower hose. There's a pretty neat little trick that I saw on that YouTube video last night, and I'm going to do my best to replicate it with what I've got here. First, we'll take this upper hose clamp and slide that out of the way. All right, that's off, ready to go. So we're going to use a plastic jug. We'll take this overflow line and disconnect it from the top of the tank. The thing that was interesting to me in diagnosing this problem, you know, when the engine was running and it was hot, the tank was retaining pressure. The cap is a 15 psi cap, and so this was holding at least 15 psi, even though there's a leak in the tank. And that piece was a little bit mysterious to me. I don't really understand it. Yeah, 8mm it is, and so this is the first bolt that retains this to the body. Free at last. Nope, not an 8. Oh no. Sorry, guys. I think if that's a 9, I'll eat my hat. I bet it's a 10. 10 it is. Alright, good. That came out nice and easy. It's always so frustrating when fasteners don't want to come undone. In the course of my life and working on cars, I've probably broken 100 fasteners. Maybe that means I'm not that good at it, but all right, let's see. Yes, good, got it. I think what I want to try and do here, I'm going to put the lid back on, seal that up, and then try to empty the tank through this little side, through the actual overflow port into this jug. Let me get this out of my way because I don't need it there. And we'll just try and lift this up, tip it over into this jug, and try to capture the fluid. I'm not going to reuse the fluid, but I've got fresh fluid, fresh coolant, but how much room do we have to move on this hose? Gotta get some tools out of the way first. Alright, so I'm just blocking this port with my finger. And then open that to make sure air can flow in while the coolant flows out. I just want to drain this and not make a mess all over my garage floor. Strangely, the new tank came with a 20 psi cap. I'm not sure why it has a different one, but I'm going to just reuse the cap that came with the vehicle on there, because I think that you're supposed to make sure that you use the right pressure setting. It's pretty well drained. There's still a little bit in there. How am I going to get that out? Because this hose doesn't reach very far to be able to let me tip this over another way. I'm going to have to release this hose clamp so that I can rotate the hose on the outlet. If I was being smart, I would have done this while it was still bolted down. I'd have better purchase on it. But this will work. Alright, that's free. Alright, that's good. Yeah, that hose and that bottom of the tank are just still quite loaded with coolant, so I really want to get that empty first. The problem is this is a little tall for the space. Doesn't fit as well. The video I watched used like a cut in half windshield washer fluid jug, and I wanted to be able to keep this intact. I didn't want to cut it up so that I could take this coolant to the recycling center. So I'm going to look for another solution. And I found one. So I've got the bottle that the coolant came in, I can cut the top off of this and use it to capture the rest of this, I think. And like magic, I've got it butchered to hopefully be able to capture the fluid out of here. This coolant out, almost done. Oh, this sure is awkward, but beats spilling coolant everywhere. People always talk about how coolant is like really sweet or tastes really good, and that's why animals end up drinking it and getting poisoned. I've never tried it. Any of you in the comments ever tasted coolant? I mean, you really shouldn't. It is definitely toxic. You do not want to ingest it. But I'm sure somebody's accidentally gotten some in their mouth while working on a car. I know I've gotten other fluids in there by mistake. Some taste really terrible. I think I remember getting some brake fluid one time, and that was just really, really nasty. Oh, there's still a bunch of coolant in there. Oh, I see. That is in the hose. So if I can do this successfully, hold this up, put the new reservoir on the hose. Yeah, the reservoir itself is now empty, so it's just the residual stuff that's in the hose down there. All right, grab the other reservoir. Here's the new reservoir, nice and clean and fresh, ready to go. I was really lucky to be able to find one, 10 minutes, 15 minutes from the house here in Palmer. The local Napa over at Four Corners had one for me. So $65 for a Dorman part. Doesn't thrill me that much to have a Dorman part, but it is the necessity of the timing of the situation. Let's see if we can do this. I think take this off. That is tight. Oh yeah, that's done. Toss that out of the way. Oops, spilling a little coolant, but not much. Just a little. Couple drops, not bad. And like magic, look at that. New tank in place. There we go. Yeah, I barely spilled anything. A few drops. That's pretty darn good. Well, we've got the new tank in place. Gotta reaffix this lower hose clamp, but I'm just gonna kind of loosely set the fasteners in place that hold this in. Then put the hoses on and tighten everything down, top it up, and then go road test the vehicle. Make sure that it holds pressure in the tank, that the vehicle doesn't leak any fluid, and we should be good to go. Lately, I've been watching a lot of videos from Rain Man Ray, a pretty good, well, not even pretty good, really, I think, an excellent mechanic based down in Florida. He's been filming his repair work for quite some time, and honestly, seeing the stuff that he does and watching his process and having at least the basic tools here, I found his videos tremendously inspiring to push me to do more of my own repairs. That I used to do a lot of more repairs on my vehicles, but kind of slowed down on that with these more modern vehicles. I find them to be kind of a pain. My first couple of vehicles were 1960s cars, Dodge Dart and some Volkswagen Beetles and things, and boy were they simple to work on, Not a lot of vacuum hose plumbing, not a lot of electronics, really in some of them no electronics whatsoever. And boy, they're just so simple to work on. I need bigger pliers for that. But yeah, I find you should check out Rain Man Ray's channel if you have any interest in automotive repair. He really shows in detail a lot of the work that he does, and it's to me it's fascinating. I enjoy watching people work on stuff like this, and pardon the beeping in the background. That's just entry sensor on my security system. All right, that is fixed firmly in place. We're going to switch this cap out, because the one it came with, as I mentioned, is set for 20 psi, and the original is set for 15. And I want to stick with the original because I don't know any better. I don't know why I would want it to be 5 psi higher. Okay, great. And then that is the fill line for cold. So I'm going to fill this back up to that level so we have the right level of coolant in here. And we've confirmed that the new cap does screw on to this reservoir without a problem. Alright, I've got some coolant that I've had here in the garage. I got some fresh coolant as well. This is Prestone Dexcool 50/50 premix. Oh, that's pretty great. So that is leaking at the bottom of the tank. Why? Why is that leaking? All right, so that started dripping out the bottom, and I think I understand why now. Because there's a little tube in the top that's for that overflow. So I just need to be careful how I'm pouring that in. That's a weird design to have that right there where when you pour fluid in, it can leak right out the bottom. This is what happens when you don't do this for a living and you don't know all these little subtle details. But I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. There. If you look inside the filler, there's this little spot here. Well, that is the basically the upper limit of how much fluid this can hold. Is at the top of this, well, I'll call it a standpipe. And what happens is the coolant should be well below the top of that that tube. And as I'm pouring coolant into the top of this reservoir, it's hitting that drain overflow and going down. So that's just, it tricked me into thinking there was a leak on this thing. All right, yeah, we have the correct lid on there, 15 psi. I'm going to go ahead and fill that up the rest of the way with some other new coolant. I think I mentioned this before, but I like to just write in Sharpie on my funnels what I use them for so that they are not cross-contaminated. Yeah, that's better. At least a little. All right, we are full enough, and I am ready to reinstall the air filter box. We've got it filled up, topped back up. I've got my hoses reaffixed in the right spots. I'm gonna give the fasteners a final tightening with the wrench just to make sure they're firmly where they're supposed to be, and then reinstall the airbox. German specifications, just make sure these are Guten-tight. Don't have to really go crazy. Don't want to strip these out. That would make my day very bad. And now we'll install the airbox. All right, that filter needs to be replaced. That's not great. Guys, take a look at this. I think I'm gonna have to swap that out right away. That is bad. That's really dirty. Can't believe I let this get this bad. Oof, shame on me. Another maintenance item to deal with. All right, well, deal with that maybe later today. I have let other folks work on this vehicle. I can't always find the time to do all my own wrenching, and so sometimes that's the consequence. You end up with people not necessarily doing things the way you would, or not paying attention to details in some cases. So sometimes it pays to just do your own work. Make sure this is tightened on nicely in a spot where it's easy to access. Because boy, what a hassle coming back to these things, and hose clamps are unreachable or at an awkward angle. Alright, and then we gotta make sure we reconnect our mass airflow sensor. There's supposed to be a little safety clip, a little retainer clip on that to keep it from just sort of wiggling loose. That is long gone on this almost 200,000 mile vehicle, but yeah, it's a firm enough fit, it doesn't really matter. Okay, well, this is all buttoned up now. I've got my MAF reconnected, air hose, intake air hose clamped down, hose clamps on both the upper and lower coolant lines for the overflow are intact. I have the correct 15 psi cap on the tank, and I have the tank filled up to the cold fill level. Now it's time for a quick test drive. Well, it started up just fine. Pulled some of that coolant from the reservoir back into the engine. That's fine. Let's see, do you see any dripping, any leaking? Only the stuff that I already spilled that I know about. Don't see any active leaks. That looks pretty good. Look at that underneath. There's the coolant that I spilled. It's down here certainly. You need a CV boot, so you really need a whole CV axle because nobody really replaces boots anymore these days. That's alright. A wear item. Alright, well, that fluid level has normalized after running for a little bit here. That's pretty good. I'm going to say time for a road test to get this warmed up to operating temperature and see how it does. I got the test drive results here, and everything's great. No new leaks, and it's holding temperature just fine, holding pressure just fine. So I'm going to declare this installation of the coolant reservoir successful, and that'll be it for today. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope that you're enjoying these videos. Let me know with a thumbs up if you are. You know, I'm trying not to make this channel about too many different things, but I think when we talk about homesteading, a lot of it really is about self-reliance, and to me, being able to do some of the basic automotive repairs is a pretty important element of self-reliance. Being able to maintain your own fleet and keep things working without necessarily having to rely on shops and so on is pretty key. So, all that said, again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.